OMD would enjoy 3 top 10 hits in 1982, 2 of which were about Joan of Arc.
We were quite intellectual, you know. Pompous, stuck up our own arses, I guess you could say. You know, we were going on Top of the Pops with Bonnie Langford and Elton John and Cliff Richard, amongst others, and we were playing a song that was in waltz time that started with 45 seconds of distortion and had no chorus and had a mellotron playing what sounded like bagpipes.
Well, explain how it works, will you?
Well, actually, it's fairly straightforward. It's a musical computer, and as you know, Eric, the right hand is lead instruments with a choice of 18 different ones, and the left hand is rhythms in this half and backgrounds in this half, and it's all been fed onto hundreds of tape tracks.
The mellotron is a very, very early sampler before samplers went digital. It was a very analog thing.
Here's a French accordion with a Viennese waltz.
It was a nightmare to use on stage. We were playing in this tiny town in the middle of France, and the mellotron was completely out of tune because all the town were drawing the power down so much cooking. The motor wouldn't spin fast enough.
Thank you. Well, David isn't a musician, as you know, but I have a professional pianist here who can really show you what the mellotron can do.
The number of people who thought that the equipment wrote the song for you. Well, anybody could do it with the same equipment that you've got. Fuck off. It's all played by hand. Believe me, if there was a button on a synth or a drum machine that said hit single, I would have pressed it as often as anybody else would have. But there isn't. It was all written by real human beings, and it was all played by hand. To the point where Paul and I thought we were going to get arthritis in our fingers from playing bass lines like that for hours on end.
Between 1981 and 1983, synth-pop reigned supreme. Our charts were chock full of duos and groups who set aside changing the world in favour of making it with a synth on top of the pops.
You've got to remember that it was the first time ever that someone could sit and make a record on their own. Eurythmics came along and they did, I remember they did Sweet Dreams in the basement. You know, they recorded it on an 8-track tape machine. Annie sang Sweet Dreams into a little Shure microphone, holding it in her hand, you know, and won a Grammy for it.
And in 1982, along came a song that turned the alienation of the original synth pioneers into a full-blown epic.
Ultravox would score like one of the biggest synth pop hits ever, called Vienna, which has that, you know, total fetishism of Middle Europe. You know, Vienna, it's the Habsburg Empire, it's, you know, the romance of Central Europe.
The movies we were watching and the music we were listening to at the time all coming out of Europe, and the history that Europe had, you know, Vienna being this beautifully romantic, you know, city, this beautiful place. And you put all that together and you've got this fantastic image, you've got this wonderful... I'd never been to Vienna when we wrote the song, you know, I didn't know anything about Vienna. You try putting that down on a piece of paper that you're going to write a song that's a 4.5-minute long electronic ballad that speeds up in the middle with a viola solo thrown in. It doesn't equate, it doesn't work. But at the time when you're young and, you know, naivety is a wonderful thing.